In this video, we're diving into the world of AI art with an epic showdown between DALL-E 3 and Midjourney 5.2. We'll explore 50 advanced prompts, 400 beautiful images, and I'll reveal when to use DALL-E 3 over Midjourney. But that's not all. I will show you how to get started and uncover 4 advantages that DALL-E 3 has over Midjourney. Get ready for a comprehensive journey into the AI art realm. We can get started by comparing 50 prompts for DALL-E 3 versus Midjourney 5.2. I've set up a little application to test 50 different prompts. The number will show in the bottom left of the display. Each prompt will start from a reference image, which will show about 4 images that were based off the original prompt. And the prompt that was used for the reference image will show in the bottom here. So here we've got a cube cutout of an isometric programmer's bedroom. From there, I used my own Midjourney account to regenerate the image myself, and then applied the same prompt within the new DALL-E 3 to see what it would look like. And finally, I created 4 different images for both Midjourney and DALL-E 3. And as we go through them, I'll hover over these little buttons and we'll just see the different images as they come through. So stay tuned as I walk through 50 different examples. And along the way, I will also dive into some of the advantages that DALL-E 3 clearly has over Midjourney, but also some of the areas where Midjourney reigns supreme. So looking objectively at image prompt number 1, they're both excellent. I think the graphics for a cube bedroom is really cool. I think this one is really cool as well. The difference though is that this is meant to be an isometric programmer's bedroom, and I don't see anything in here to suggest that it is for a programmer. Here we've got a guy, he's writing code, he's got 2 monitors, so this is clearly a programmer setup. If we move on to the next version, the same thing again. We've got this messy bedroom on the left. It looks very technical, so it could be a programmer one, but we've got a person sitting in front of a computer on the right. Here on the third one, clear again, we've got a messy bedroom on the left. We've got a clean and tidy bedroom with 3 monitors going on. From a Midjourney versus DALL-E perspective for number 1, I'm leaning towards the DALL-E image. Let's move on to the second one. 4 cats up here. There is a cat with a chain around its neck and a fish tattoo on it. Now when we look at Midjourney, this looks pretty good. There's a tattoo over here. We look at the cat over here. We've got a fish. It's not actually on the cat, so maybe that's a little incorrect. If we move through, here we do have a tattoo on the cat. The fish is off to the side in this case. And again, the fish is off to the side. I think what DALL-E has done is a different style. It looks really good. I personally prefer the Midjourney one. I think it got more accurate with this particular prompt. But this is the sort of things that we're going to discuss as we go through the 50 advanced prompts. Number 3 is a virtual window, Art Nouveau with colorful nature motifs, and we've got a big fox in the middle. The reference images look awesome. They're great. When we look at the Midjourney, I personally think it looks closer to the reference image and it looks a little bit better. The DALL-E 3 ones are great as well. They're just a different style. All up, they're both great. Personally, I like the Midjourney. Number 4, we've got aliens, and we've got an alien with a hand, blurry shape, focus foreground. When I look at these, the hand looks human in this case, so that's a bit of a problem going on here. It also looks a bit human here. We've got some great images. They're both pretty good. They're pretty good. The one on the right from DALL-E looks a little better to me. And then we've got this with the hands kind of looking half alien, half human. So all pretty good, whether it's Midjourney or DALL-E 3. So we have these 2 blonde gentlemen in pale grey vested suits, club tie, pompadour haircut, staining with ketchup. The images over here, they looked very consistent with the reference as I moved through the different styles. Images from DALL-E 3 though, a couple of things to note is that it got the actual ketchup on the guy's clothes, and I think this looks awesome, even though the ketchup color coming through on these pictures also look awesome. So they're both great. One of the other things to note is that there are only 3 DALL-E 3 images. We got 1, 2, 3, and we moved to the 4th one and there isn't one. And this was one of the things I noticed the DALL-E 3 image generation is that you didn't always get 4 images. Now with Midjourney, you do always get 4 when you generate a prompt. At this stage, you might be wondering, how can I use DALL-E 3? Now I've come to a URL, bing.com/create, and it asks, describe what you want to create, and we'll just say create a logo for Appy Dave, and we'll click on the join and create button. Now you would need a Microsoft account. I already have one. I'm going to press next. I'm connected to GitHub, which we'll just try that out. Now it's created a logo already with text. It's got a H and I asked for Appy Dave, but this is great. I've used up 1 credit. I'm down to 99 to go. Now that you know how to set up and use DALL-E 3, let's move on. As we move into number 6, we have this great reference image, but the actual prompt is written in Spanish. If I move over to Google Translate, we can see what it stands for: need sovereign, probably steel, avatar. And looking back, I think the Midjourney version that's come through when I did it looks quite accurate, though the one from DALL-E 3 kind of looks like the reference image. And I'll go into a bit later how I got reference images. But as we move through and we look at others, we've got these really interesting but totally different images coming from Midjourney and DALL-E 3. And I think they're both really good. It's really hard to decide which one I would prefer. I guess its intent would matter the most. As we move on to prompt 7, we start looking at text on an image. And here it's a sloth on the cover of Vogue. The reference image had the word Vogue there. I don't know whether this was added after the fact with Photoshop or something. But the really interesting thing about DALL-E 3 is that it's clear that we've got the word Vogue. And as I move through them, it consistently got the word Vogue on all of them. I believe that this doesn't always work, but in this case it did. Now the images from Midjourney also look quite good to me, but they're clearly not the intent that was after, which is a sloth on the cover of Vogue. And so for me, that shows us one of the first advantages that we see out of DALL-E 3 is that you can generate text. I came across another prompt that had a text component to it. So if we move on to number 8, we've got this translucent glass AR headset designed by Braun. At the moment, these 2 images look quite amazing, but there's no text on them. If we move to the second one though, we can clearly see that Braun is showing in the DALL-E image, whereas the Midjourney one shows text, but you can't read it. If we move over one more, we've got it happening again for a second image in the set. The third one didn't do anything at all. All of these images are brilliant, but the fact that we're seeing text on the DALL-E 3 is that advantage being shown again. Moving on to number 9, we've got this cool reference image of a female futuristic pop artist. When we look at the Midjourney version that I generated using the same prompt, we see a lot of similarity between the reference image coming out of Midjourney. The images coming out of DALL-E 3 are also excellent. They're just a different style. One of the things that I noticed with this one is we didn't get 4 images from DALL-E 3. We only got 3 of them. So this is, again, sometimes it doesn't return all 4 images. To me, these are both brilliant examples of this prompt. Prompt number 10 is a cartoon in the style of Tintin comics. I look at both side by side. They're pretty good no matter whether they came from Midjourney or whether they came from DALL-E 3. Here I think they're both winners. I mentioned earlier that I was using reference images, and the reference image is where I would get the prompt from. Now let me show you how I was sourcing this information. Essentially I was using either Lexica or I was using the showcase capability within Midjourney. And what that means is that if you go over to lexica.art, you'll have all these images that are curated by the community. We can even see one here with Vogue on the front. But what I'd do is come and find something that I might like, this image for example, and copy the prompt. For every image I've done, except for a couple where the reference is blank, I've taken a copy of the original URL and I'll put this in an article. If you check in the link below, an article where you can go and find these original images. Now, every image you're seeing up to this stage have come from Lexica, but I also used for the rest of the images the showcase from Midjourney. And Midjourney showcase is an excellent location to get really good images. You can hover over an image that you like, click on the person that created it, and you'll see a list of their various prompts and images, and from here you can get the information. One of the things I did, and this happened for about 30 of the images that we're seeing, is that I copied both the prompt that's here and any additional settings that were going on. And I would try them in both DALL-E 3 and Midjourney. Now, I doubt that these work the same way in DALL-E 3, but it was interesting that I could just copy stuff verbatim and get really accurate representations with DALL-E 3. So if you're looking for some really good prompts, you can check out Lexica or the Midjourney showcase. Moving on to number 11, we have an Unreal Engine scenic render of a rabbit in a Chinese coat. When we look at the Midjourney image over on the left, they look a lot similar to the reference images, but everything coming out of the right on DALL-E 3 looks pretty awesome in its own right. I think these are a tie. But to be honest, I'd be curious to hear what you think. As I go through different images, write a comment down below of the number of the image and which one you think is the best. What's your opinion? As we move on to number 12, we've got another Tintin comic example, but this time it's an architectural picture. It's a building in Tokyo. As we move through all four of them, they look excellent, no matter which system you used. As we move on to number 13, we've got a very similar image because it's by the same prompt author. Like I said, there'll be an article if you want to go and find these people. I started finding as I went through this that I would follow the same author over and over for a few images. They were just so brilliant at what they were doing. Kudos to those people. This is another Tintin comic. We've got a lot of black and white coming through on the DALL-E 3, sometimes on the Midjourney. This was an example where DALL-E 3 didn't return the fourth image. All up, these look great no matter what system you're using. If we move on to number 14, a symmetrical fern owl. We get images from Midjourney and DALL-E 3, which are both great. They're just different styles. One of the things that you can do is test it out between the different systems to get great quality, but different styling. As I move on to number 15, we come across an example where the results in DALL-E 3 and Midjourney don't actually match the reference image. Now, I tried this a number of times and we look at these four and we can see that there's nothing about them that look like the reference image. But every now and then Midjourney would give something similar to this. Being very specific in language is still important, whether it be Midjourney or DALL-E 3. In number 16, my tests again did not quite match the reference image, but they were excellent attempts on both DALL-E 3 and Midjourney that we're seeing across the board. They're just brilliant. It's got this 2D repeating pattern going each time. As we move to 17, we see a clear winner. In this case, it's Midjourney's ability to do really good images from simple prompts. We've got this plain sort of image over on DALL-E 3, and that just happened over and over with this particular example. But I will note that DALL-E 3 did get really good images most of the time. This next example is both really cool and just interesting how people think to go a dinosaur made of wool in a realistic forest. As we look at the Midjourney and the DALL-E 3, this one looks really cool. That one's pretty good. But as we move through, there's good quality images coming out of both systems. If you want to create a poster for a horror movie, both DALL-E 3 and Midjourney are doing really good examples. Get two different styles, but they look pretty good no matter which way you go. I think it might be a good time to look at the next advantage of DALL-E 3 over Midjourney, and that's that you can use it for free within the Bing chat platform. If we go back to our example that we've got here, we'll copy the prompt and move into bing.com, and you need to click on the chat window. And what we can do is type in image of, just paste in the prompt that we had, press enter, and let's have a look at what it does. Now it's come up with, I'm sorry, but I'm not able to generate that image, and then it's making a statement, your image is generated. So I wasn't sure what was going to happen there. This actually looks very similar to what we had. If we move back, it looks very much like this version that we got on the right here in DALL-E is what we're seeing coming out of here. If you want to generate images today and you don't want to spend any money, you can go straight into Bing, go into the chat functionality, and you can create images there. Example number 20 is a great example of seeing how Midjourney versus DALL-E 3 can do two totally different styles when trying to generate graphics. We have a reference image here of a pixelated cat, and within Midjourney, it's quite detailed. It's very artistic, I think. When I look at the one in DALL-E 3, we have more of this 8-bit pixelation, the sort of stuff that you might have seen in a computer game in the 80s. And as I scroll through them, the various versions, the ones on the left look incredible. They're very cool. But if I wanted this as an 8-bit representation, the one on the right looks better. Admittedly, I could probably get the 8-bit representation by putting that into the prompt, but I just like that you can test it in both systems and get really different but cool examples. Advanced prompt comparisons are great, but before we analyze number 26, I think we should talk about another advantage that DALL-E 3 clearly has over Midjourney, and that's the ability to use it directly from ChatGPT Plus. Now I'm in ChatGPT Plus. I'll hover over the GPT-4 and go to DALL-E 3 beta. Now my prompt is create image of, and we'll just paste in the number 26 example, which is a Midjourney prompt. And one of the things that we should note is that it's got the word dungeon in here. This worked out great in DALL-E 3 and Midjourney, but there may be issues with certain words within ChatGPT. At the moment it's creating the image. We've got one coming through at the moment. Here's the second one in production. Now the third and hopefully the fourth will come through. It's very slow compared to DALL-E 3. And the exact issue that I was worried about, there's a content policy in the words we've used. Taking us back to a simpler pixel art cat, we'll see what that does. These are great, but it shows the differences between DALL-E 3 and DALL-E 3 in ChatGPT is that there is a content policy issue that we've got to deal with. Prompt number 26 looks great in Midjourney 5 and DALL-E 3, but we did see the issue of using it from ChatGPT. Now, looking further into this, it could be the word dungeon, but it's most likely the man repressed with agony is not getting through the content policy issues within ChatGPT. But when we look at the images that are here in DALL-E 3, they look really good to me. They're just a different style to what we're seeing out of Midjourney, but these are excellent examples. This next incredibly impressive reference image looks great within Midjourney and DALL-E 3 as we hover through. Similar styles, I would say. They're looking great, but we've got options now. Next, we have beautiful oil paintings of majestic animals, and they're looking good, whether it's in Midjourney, whether we've got DALL-E. It's funny that we've got lions on both sides here. We've got horses on both sides here. And these images are just being displayed in the order that they were generated. Next, we have a reference that DALL-E 3 did not get correct in this case. An 80-year-old beautiful Dobby. Now, Dobby is a character from a Harry Potter novel. We've got the picture here, and we look through it. This one looks great, 80 years of age, and we move through, and DALL-E 3 is presenting a dog each time, which is interesting. So it didn't get the prompt correct. If I tried again, maybe it would work okay. That's something that happens in Midjourney anyway. It doesn't always get it right the first time. Now, the Dobby example is looking odd in both Midjourney and DALL-E 3 in another attempt. So we've got a photo of Dobby in Prada outfit. And as we scroll through, I'm not sure the reference point of this, what it's meant to be, but we're not seeing Dobby, the character from Harry Potter, but we are seeing Harry from Harry Potter in the DALL-E 3. Another good thing here, we can see Prada being written across the shirt. So clearly a Prada outfit going on. If we move through, we've got Harry Potter again. We've got some sort of dog, Harry Potter. Look, tell me in the comments whether you know what this is. I Didn't understand the reference of a dog to the term Dobie. Maybe I'm just missing something here. In keeping with the catwalk style, we move back to seeing the sloth again. I love these sloths in these generations. As we move through them, they're pretty good whether they're DALL-E 3 or Midjourney. Generally, these are looking quite amazing. Before we talk about the next prompt of Vernon Dursley from Star Wars, I think it might be good to have a look at the next advantage that DALL-E 3 has, and that's the speed and the user experience within the Bing Create application. Now, to start off with, Midjourney doesn't actually have an application for which you can generate images in. Instead, it's a system within a Discord server. So you have to understand how to use Discord. If we find our image of Vernon Dursley, we've got him here, we've got individual images here. Now I have about 3,500 images. If I want to go back and find certain images, it's quite difficult within Discord. One thing I can do once I've got an image generated like this, and from the web interface, I can click on my username. When we get to here, you can see all the different images that I've been generating over time. So I really have to use two different systems when I'm working that way. The other problem is if I scroll all the way to the bottom, I've generated the pixelated cat again. That's a pretty easy thing to do to generate an image the first time. But once you want to play around with settings, you've got to understand that there's a settings command, and there's all these little commands that you need to memorize or have cheat sheets for. Whereas if this was an application, they could just be buttons on a screen that you just click. So let's contrast this with the Bing Create application. We're here in Bing Create. I'm signed in, I've got 92 credits. We've got a little search idea of different images by different creators. But what I can do is we'll type in the pixel art cat, we'll do a create on that. One of the things I've noticed about Bing Create versus Midjourney is that generally this is a fair bit quicker. We've also got access to some images that we've done recently. We've got our pixelated cat coming up. We don't have the quick shortcuts that are in Midjourney of doing a variation on 1, 2, 3, or 4 directly from this interface, but we can click onto an image and from here we can do something like a customization. And this has pulled us into another app in the Microsoft ecosystem called Microsoft Designer. There's different stuff that we can do here. But if we go back to the image creator app, we might think it's quite minimal at the moment. There's a lot more you can do if you understand the command structure of Midjourney. But being an app, this is easily expandable, and I'm sure we're going to see features added, basically shortcuts, to do common tasks within the Bing Creator application. I've been pushing the advantages of DALL-E a little bit too much. Let's bring it back to reality. I still like Midjourney from an image creation point of view because generally it does a little bit better than what we're getting out of DALL-E 3. If we look at it here, we've got the pixelated cat, that's within the Bing Creator application. We can also see the same sort of image coming out of ChatGPT. The fact that we can use it in ChatGPT is awesome. And I certainly like this fourth image from the ChatGPT example, but if we go over to Midjourney, what we see here is a far more stylized version of a cat. I think for the time being, the advantages of Midjourney is that you've got a little bit more fine control over the creation process within the prompts. I think DALL-E 3 is really catching up, but stay tuned. We've got more advanced prompts to look at, and we've got one more really big advantage that lives with DALL-E 3. So we're back on number 32. It's Vernon Dursley as a Star Wars sci-fi robot. And when we go through the different versions, we've got an image here where I don't think it looks like Vernon Dursley out of DALL-E 3. Moving forward, they are a little bit closer here. So they're all pretty good. Maybe Midjourney is better in this scenario. Number 33 is a snow owl as a Star Wars Ewok. This looks great no matter which system you use. So both Midjourney and DALL-E 3 are doing really good renditions of this particular prompt. If you ever wondered what the anatomy of Voldemort looked like, both Midjourney and DALL-E 3 have you covered. I think the Midjourney versions are a little bit more stylized, but we got really good pictures in both applications. If you ever wondered what the world of a wizard might look like, then this generalized prompt on wizarding Looks pretty good in both Midjourney, where we have what looks like a wizard. Here we've got this fantasy landscape. When we look at the reference image that we move through, Midjourney does it pretty well on the second version. It also does it pretty well on the fourth version. In between, it's got something totally different. But the images coming out of DALL-E 3 are also great each time we go through one. I think the nature of this generalized sort of prompt we've got, there's nothing too specific in here, has led to various variations that are looking good in both systems. This next prompt was a good example where DALL-E 3 doesn't always render out all the images correctly. So we've got reference image here. It looks very close in the Midjourney version. It's pretty good in the DALL-E 3 version. But when I move to the next one, we do not have any more images out of DALL-E 3. Maybe you're looking to come up with a design for a silk scarf. Now this next example looks great in both Midjourney and DALL-E 3 as we move through. Maybe the Midjourney version has a little bit of the edge, but they're good in both systems. This next stunning prompt of a wall carving made out of wood, it's a mountain, looks great in both DALL-E and Midjourney. My preference is definitely the Midjourney version. I think it looks better, but I'm curious, when you look through these, do you prefer what's coming out of DALL-E 3 or do you like what's coming out of Midjourney? This next version of robots with flowers looks excellent in both DALL-E 3 and Midjourney, but we get two fundamentally different styles. As we move through, we've got the same robot on the left each time. We've got the same robot on the right, but they're very different sort of looks. And the same thing happens with this Asian river, boats, mountains. We've got two great looking images, just a little bit different in the stylization between DALL-E and Midjourney. You can see that repeated on the next version where we've got these nice mountain river sort of scenes going on here. Now, before we look at a bunch of cats on a wall, I want to talk about the number one advantage that I'm looking for that will be in DALL-E. And that's the access to the API. Now, this will be a game changer because this means that those cool images that we've been looking at will be able to integrate into our applications. I think the easiest way to demonstrate what I mean is by looking at a little bit of code I wrote here. It's very simple. There's essentially a size of image. It'll be 1000 pixels square. The next thing is it'll print out both the prompt and the URL where the generated image will live, and hopefully it will open it up in a Chrome browser for us. So if we go up to this area called prompt and we'll put in pixel art cat, I think that would be a great way to go, and we hit save. A little bit of code will run to generate that image against the OpenAI endpoints, and it's printed out a couple of URLs. And if I head over to my Chrome window, we will see a version of a pixelated cat. Now you might be thinking that doesn't look very good. And the reason that doesn't look so good is because it's using version 2 of DALL-E. Now, I went and had a look online, and 3 days ago this question was posed: how do we get DALL-E 3 access to the API? And the reality is it's not there yet. But I'll just state that as soon as the DALL-E 3 API is available, the ability to have these cool looking animals represented within your application by potentially just changing the prompt, pressing go and seeing a new image up here is exactly what we're going to see very soon. You've seen so far that DALL-E 3 has closed the gap on Midjourney in terms of image quality. Generally, the Midjourney images can be a little bit better, but when it comes to this API, if Midjourney don't get their act together, no developer will write software to extend applications that use images. So I went and had a look to see whether Midjourney have a plan to do this, because this has been the number one feature that developers have wanted from Midjourney. Now, there's a statement here that there may be an API coming out, and I assume they have to do it if DALL-E and OpenAI are going to release an API. Coming back to prompt number 42, I said before the API section that this was about cats because I was looking at this reference image that looks like cats, but the prompt clearly states dogs, and that is what we see here. These are really cool images of dogs. So they're just different styles going on as we move through. These look a little bit human cat-like. This one looks a bit human-like. Here we've got dogs on both sides. So pretty impressed with the images coming out of both systems here. If you stayed around to advanced prompt number 42, you might be looking at this little application that I've got here and wondering, what is it? How did I do this? And this is an application that I've put together. It has concepts like changing to different images. We can click and go to the next image in the list. They fade in. We've got a DALL-E 3 image zooming out. We've got a Midjourney image zooming out. And again, we can just move from image to image. And ideally, I should be able to just modify the prompt. And if we had the API that we talked about a moment ago, should be able to press a button and see the images change in both systems. And you're going, well, how do I get access to this? Well, if you stay tuned to the end of the video, I'll talk about how I put this together briefly and how you might be able to do it for yourself.
Sometimes like all you want to do is run. Hear me out, hear me out. It's all the things you never show. There are the things I want to know. Secrets
advanced prompts for Midjourney 5.2 versus DALL-E version 3. Now, as promised, I said I might talk a little bit about the application I used to demonstrate all this information. And it relates very much to what this channel is about. The channel is not about image generation. It's about prompt engineering for use in business. And I focus on 3 areas. One is writing code using prompt engineering. 2 is writing content, whether it be marketing content, business content. And the 3rd area that I focus on is YouTube automation, because what I'm trying to do is build up a YouTube channel and I'm trying to automate my processes. But let's have a look at this application and how it came about. So here we have a little bit of code that I've written. It's all through here and it's producing the page that you're looking at. And you may have noticed earlier that my image, my talking head, was showing up in this little area here where it's, and I did that by adding a little bit of code into the system called Chroma just here, which is applying the green color, and this allowed the video to come through as a green screen. But if I take it a little bit further and we'll look at these labels. So we've got Midjourney 5.2, DALL-E 3, and we've got reference. These parts of the application are editable by me, so I could change it to something like Appy Dave, and this would be the channel that I use for writing prompts and ChatGPT custom instructions when it comes to coding. Or I might have winning prompts and I want that to show on the screen. And this is where I do prompt engineering in general. And I'm specifically trying to do YouTube automation, and that's where I do fly video. So as I run 4 different YouTube channels, Appycast where I do the behind the scenes, Fly Video where I automate myself, Winning Prompts where I work through custom GPT instructions, and Appy Dave where I do ChatGPT coding. This is the sort of tooling that I'm building. Now, I did not write this from scratch. What I did was I wrote GPT custom instructions for areas to do with programming, And this whole application was created on top of Astro and Tailwind CSS. And the custom instructions allowed me to use documentation that was live off the internet. And if I just scroll through here, we see lots of code being generated. This took me a little bit of time to do, but what's interesting is that I didn't need to put on my programming hat to build an application. I could put on my GPT hat. Now, I am a programmer. I've been writing code for about 40 years, since I was 11, and professionally since I was 17. So I do know how to code. But these days, I like to do all my coding using ChatGPT. It's a very interesting space to explore. I think anyone that's interested in future-proofing their jobs needs to figure out how they currently do what they do using AI. Thank you for staying till the end. If you're interested in something to do with ChatGPT or prompt engineering or how you can automate yourself in business, then have a look at one of these videos up in the corner.